Victoria Sterling walked into the coffee shop like she owned the world. Her high heels clicked loudly on the marble floor. She wore a white designer dress that cost more than most people made in a month. Her handbag was covered in gold letters that spelled out a famous brand name. Everything about her screamed money and power. The coffee shop was busy that Tuesday morning. People in expensive suits sat at small tables, typing on their laptops and talking about business deals. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air. Outside, the busy streets of Manhattan buzzed with cars and people rushing to work. Victoria had her phone pressed to her ear. She was talking loudly, not caring who heard her conversation. "Daddy just bought another building in Brooklyn," she said into the phone. "Yes, the whole building. We're going to tear it down and build condos. Poor people will have to move, but that's not our problem." She laughed at something the person on the phone said. Her laugh was sharp and cold. Several people at nearby tables looked up from their drinks. They frowned at her loud voice, but Victoria did not notice or care. Behind the counter, Marcus Rodriguez was working hard. He had been at the coffee shop since 5 in the morning. His uniform was clean but old. The fabric was thin from being washed so many times. His name tag was slightly crooked, and his shoes were worn at the edges. But his smile was warm and real when he greeted each customer. Marcus was 26 years old. He had dark hair and kind brown eyes. When he spoke, people could hear a slight accent. He had come to America 5 years ago with big dreams and hope for a better life. Now he worked 3 jobs just to pay for food and rent, but he never complained. He treated every customer with respect and kindness. Victoria finally ended her phone call. She walked to the counter with her chin up high. She did not look at Marcus as a person. To her, he was just someone who worked there. Someone beneath her. Someone who did not matter. "I want my usual," Victoria said. She did not say hello. She did not smile. She spoke to Marcus like he was a machine, not a human being. Marcus looked confused. He had never seen this woman before. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said politely. "I don't know your usual order. Could you please tell me what you would like?" Victoria's eyes got narrow and angry. "What do you mean you don't know?" she snapped. "I come here all the time. Are you stupid?" This was not true. Victoria had never been to this coffee shop before. She had seen it from her car and decided to stop in. But in her mind, all coffee shops should know who she was. She was Victoria Sterling. Her father owned half the buildings in the city. Marcus stayed calm and polite. "I'm sorry for the confusion, ma'am. I've been working here for 6 months and I don't remember serving you before. But I'd be happy to help you now. What can I make for you today?" Victoria's face turned red with anger. How dare this poor worker question her? She was used to people doing whatever she wanted without asking questions. She was used to being treated like a princess. "Don't you know who I am?" Victoria shouted. Other customers stopped their conversations and looked toward the counter. "I am Victoria Sterling. My family owns buildings all over this city. You should know my order." Marcus felt embarrassed, but not for himself. He felt bad that this woman was so upset. He wanted to help her feel better. "I apologize, Miss Sterling. I'm sure you're a very important person. Could you please tell me what drink you would like? I promise to remember it for next time." But Victoria was not interested in being nice. She looked at Marcus from head to toe. She saw his old uniform and worn shoes. She heard his accent when he spoke. In her small mind, these things made him less than her. These things made him someone she could treat badly. "People like you should not work in places like this," Victoria said loudly. "This is a nice coffee shop for important people. You belong in some cheap place downtown with the other immigrants." The coffee shop became very quiet. Everyone was staring now. Some people took out their phones. Marcus felt his face get hot, but he did not get angry. His mother had taught him to always be respectful, even when others were not respectful to him. "I understand you're frustrated, ma'am," Marcus said quietly. "Let me make you the best coffee I can. What would you like to drink?" Victoria was not happy that Marcus stayed calm. She wanted him to get upset. She wanted him to know his place. "Fine," she said. "Make me a large coffee with cream, and don't mess it up like you mess up everything else." Marcus nodded and started making her coffee. His hands were steady even though his heart was beating fast. He had faced mean people before. Some customers treated him badly because of how he looked or how he talked, but he never let it stop him from doing his best work. While Marcus made her coffee, Victoria kept talking. She wanted everyone in the coffee shop to hear her. "This is what's wrong with this country," she said loudly. We let anyone work anywhere. They take jobs from real Americans. They don't even speak English properly. An older man at a nearby table shook his head. A young woman whispered to her friend, "What's wrong with her?" But no one said anything to Victoria. She was too loud and too angry. Marcus finished making the coffee. He put it in a nice cup and added cream just like she asked. He put it on the counter with a small smile. "Here you go, Miss Sterling. I hope you enjoy it." Victoria grabbed the cup without saying thank you. She took a sip and made a face like it tasted bad. "This is terrible," she lied. The coffee was actually very good. Marcus made excellent coffee, but Victoria wanted to complain. "Make it again," she demanded, "and this time try to do it right." Marcus nodded patiently. "Of course, ma'am. How would you like me to make it differently?" Victoria could not answer because she did not really know anything about coffee. She just wanted to make Marcus feel bad. "Just make it better," she snapped. As Marcus started making a new cup of coffee, Victoria continued her cruel words. She called him names. She said he was stupid and worthless. She said people like him should go back where they came from. Every word was like a knife, but Marcus kept working. He kept being polite. He kept treating her with respect even though she did not deserve it. The other customers watched in shock. They could not believe how mean Victoria was being to someone who was just trying to help her. Some of them started recording videos with their phones. They wanted to show the world how this rich woman treated a hard-working person. But Victoria did not know she was being recorded. She was too busy being cruel to notice the phones pointed at her. She had no idea that her words and actions would soon be seen by thousands of people. She had no idea that this moment would change her life forever. Marcus carefully prepared Victoria's second cup of coffee. His hands moved with practiced skill as he ground the beans and steamed the milk. He had made thousands of cups of coffee in his 6 months at this job. He took pride in his work even when customers were unkind to him. Victoria stood at the counter tapping her expensive nails on the marble surface. She looked around the coffee shop with angry eyes. She noticed that other customers were watching her, but she thought they were admiring her beautiful dress and jewelry. She had no idea they were disgusted by her behavior. "Hurry up," Victoria snapped at Marcus. "I don't have all day to wait for you." Marcus nodded politely. "Almost ready, ma'am," he said softly. He was being extra careful with this cup. He wanted it to be perfect so she would have no reason to complain. As Marcus lifted the cup to place it on the counter, his elbow accidentally bumped the edge of the coffee machine. The movement caused a few drops of coffee to splash onto the counter next to Victoria's cup. It was a tiny accident, the kind that happens in busy coffee shops every day. The cup was still full and the coffee was still perfect, but Victoria saw those few drops of spilled coffee and her anger exploded like a volcano. "You clumsy idiot," she screamed at the top of her lungs. Her voice was so loud that people at the back of the coffee shop jumped in their seats. "Look what you did. You spilled coffee everywhere. You ruined everything." Marcus looked at the tiny spill and then at Victoria. He could not understand why she was so upset about a few drops. "I'm very sorry, ma'am," he said calmly. "Let me clean that up and make you a fresh cup." "No," Victoria shouted. "You've already wasted enough of my time. You're completely worthless. You can't do anything right." She pointed her finger at Marcus like she was scolding a child. Her face was red with anger. Spit flew from her mouth as she yelled. Everyone in the coffee shop was staring now. Some people had their phones out recording everything. "People like you don't deserve to work in nice places." Victoria continued screaming. "You're too stupid. You're too clumsy. You don't belong here with civilized people." Marcus felt his heart sink. He had worked so hard to get this job. He needed this job to pay for his mother's medicine and to save money for school. He could not lose this job because of one angry customer. "Please, ma'am," Marcus said quietly. "I'm truly sorry about the small spill. Let me make you a new drink and I'll clean everything up. There's no charge for you today." But Victoria was not interested in apologies or free coffee. She was enjoying being cruel. It made her feel powerful to hurt someone who could not fight back. "I want to speak to your manager right now," Victoria demanded. "You need to be fired. You're too stupid to work anywhere decent." Marcus felt scared now. He needed this job desperately. "Ma'am, please," he said. "It was just a small accident. I can fix everything." "Fix everything?" Victoria laughed meanly. "You can't fix anything." "Look at you. Look at your cheap clothes and your broken English. You probably don't even have papers to work in this country. The coffee shop became completely silent except for Victoria's cruel voice. An elderly man at a corner table shook his head sadly. A young mother covered her child's ears. A businessman looked up from his laptop with disgust on his face. "Where I come from," said the businessman loudly, "we treat service workers with respect." Victoria spun around to face him. "Mind your own business," she snapped. "This is between me and this incompetent worker." "It became everyone's business when you started screaming," said the young mother. "That young man is doing his best. You're being completely unreasonable." More customers began to speak up. "She's right," said a college student. "You're acting terrible." "That poor guy doesn't deserve this treatment," added an older woman. Victoria could not believe that these people were taking Marcus's side instead of hers. She was rich and important. They should be supporting her, not some poor coffee shop worker. "You're all just as bad as he is," Victoria yelled at the customers. "None of you understand what it's like to expect proper service. I pay good money and I deserve respect." "Respect is earned," said the businessman. "And you haven't earned any." A teenage girl near the window was recording everything on her phone. "This is going straight to social media," she said loudly. "Everyone needs to see how this woman treats people." Victoria noticed the phone for the first time. "Put that away," she demanded. "You can't record me without permission." "Actually, I can," said the girl. "This is a public place and you're acting like a public menace." Victoria felt panic rising in her chest. She did not want videos of her being posted online, but she was too angry to think clearly. Instead of calming down, she became even more upset. "All of you are disgusting," she screamed. "You're taking the side of some immigrant over a real American, over someone whose family built this city." Marcus stood quietly behind the counter through all of this. He did not defend himself or argue back. He had learned long ago that angry people usually made themselves look worse when no one fought with them. His calm behavior made Victoria look even more terrible by comparison. The manager, Mr. Johnson, finally came out from the back office. He had heard the yelling and came to see what was wrong. Mr. Johnson was a kind man in his 50s who treated all his employees fairly. "What seems to be the problem here?" Mr. Johnson asked calmly. Victoria pointed at Marcus like he was a criminal. "This worthless employee spilled coffee and ruined my morning. He's incompetent and rude. I demand that you fire him immediately." Mr. Johnson looked at the tiny coffee spill on the counter. Then he looked at Marcus, who was standing quietly with his head down. Then he looked at all the customers who were shaking their heads at Victoria. "Ma'am," Mr. Johnson said politely, "I see a very small spill that can be cleaned up in 2 seconds. I also see one of my best employees who has been working here without a single complaint for 6 months. What I don't see is any reason to fire anyone." Victoria's mouth fell open in shock. "How dare you take his side? Do you know who I am?" "I know you're someone who thinks money gives you the right to treat people badly," Mr. Johnson said firmly. "And I'm asking you to leave my coffee shop now." "You can't kick me out," Victoria protested. "I'll sue you. I'll shut this place down." "You're welcome to try," Mr. Johnson said. "But right now you need to leave." Victoria looked around the coffee shop one more time. Every single person was staring at her with disgust. Phones were still recording. She realized she had lost this battle completely. "Fine," she screamed. "I wouldn't drink coffee in this dump anyway. You'll all be sorry when my father hears about this." She grabbed her expensive handbag and stormed toward the door. But before leaving, she turned back one more time. "And you," she pointed at Marcus. "You'll never amount to anything. People like you will always be servants to people like me." With that final cruel comment, Victoria Sterling walked out of the coffee shop. She slammed the door so hard that the bell above it rang for several seconds. The coffee shop stayed quiet for a moment. Then slowly the customers began to clap. They were clapping for Marcus, who had handled the situation with grace and dignity. They were showing him that good people appreciated his hard work and kind heart. Marcus smiled shyly and waved at the customers. Mr. Johnson patted him on the shoulder. "You did great, son," he said. "Don't let people like her get to you." But Victoria's cruel words had hurt Marcus more than he wanted to admit. As he cleaned up the tiny coffee spill, he wondered if she was right. Would he always be just a poor immigrant working in service jobs? He had no idea that the videos being uploaded at that very moment would soon make him famous across the entire country. Sarah Chen was a college student who had been sitting in the corner of the coffee shop when Victoria Sterling began her cruel attack on Marcus. Sarah often came to this coffee shop to study because it was quiet, and Marcus always made her the perfect cappuccino. She had watched the entire ugly scene unfold, and she was disgusted by Victoria's behavior. As soon as Victoria left the coffee shop, Sarah uploaded the video she had recorded to her social media accounts. She wrote a simple message. Rich woman treats hard-working barista like trash over tiny coffee spill. This is why we need to be better to each other. Coffee shame Victoria, be kind. Respect service workers. Sarah had only about 300 followers on her social media account. She was just a regular college student, not famous or influential. She thought maybe a few of her friends would see the video and agree that Victoria's behavior was terrible. She had no idea that her simple post would explode across the internet like wildfire. Within 30 minutes, Sarah's phone was buzzing with notifications. Her friends were sharing the video and adding their own angry comments about Victoria's behavior. But the sharing did not stop with Sarah's friends. Their friends shared it too, and then their friends shared it with their friends. The video spread from person to person like a disease. Everyone who watched it felt the same anger and disgust. They could not believe how cruelly Victoria had treated Marcus, who had done nothing wrong except accidentally spill a few drops of coffee. By lunchtime, the hashtag #NarCoffeeShameVictoria was trending in New York City. By dinner time, it was trending across the entire United States. The video had been viewed over 1 million times in just 8 hours. People from all walks of life were commenting on the video. Teachers, doctors, lawyers, students, parents, grandparents, everyone was united in their disgust for Victoria's behavior and their support for Marcus. "This makes me sick," wrote one comment. "That poor young man was just trying to do his job. I can't believe people like this actually exist," wrote another. "How can someone be so cruel to another human being?" "That barista handled it perfectly," commented a third person. "He stayed calm and professional while she acted like a spoiled child." The video was shared on every social media platform. It appeared on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. News bloggers began writing articles about it. Radio stations played the audio during their morning shows. Television news programs started showing clips of Victoria's meltdown. One particularly popular comment came from a restaurant owner in Chicago. "If this woman ever comes into my restaurant, she will be asked to leave immediately. We don't serve people who treat workers with disrespect." Hundreds of other business owners replied with similar messages. Coffee shops, restaurants, hotels, and stores across the country were all saying the same thing. Victoria Sterling was not welcome in their establishments. Victoria had no idea any of this was happening. She had gone home to her expensive apartment and taken a long bath to calm down from her terrible morning. She had convinced herself that she was the victim in the coffee shop situation. In her mind, she had been mistreated by bad service and rude employees. But late that evening, Victoria's phone began to ring. Her friend Jessica was calling and she sounded excited. "Victoria," Jessica said as soon as Victoria answered. "Girl, you are famous. You're all over the internet." Victoria felt a thrill of excitement. She loved being the center of attention. "Really? What are people saying about me?" There was a long pause. Then Jessica spoke more quietly. Victoria, it's not good. There's a video of you yelling at some coffee shop worker. People are really mad at you." Victoria felt her stomach drop. "What video? What are you talking about?" "Someone recorded you having a fight with a barista this morning. It's everywhere. Everyone is talking about how mean you were to him." Victoria quickly hung up and grabbed her laptop. She searched for her name online and felt the blood drain from her face. There were hundreds of thousands of results. Articles with headlines like "Rich Woman's Coffee Shop Meltdown Goes Viral" and entitled "Heiress Attacks Innocent Worker" filled her screen. She clicked on the video and watched herself screaming at Marcus. Seeing her own behavior from the outside was like looking in a funhouse mirror. She looked angry, mean, and completely out of control. Marcus, in contrast, looked calm, professional, and kind. The comments under the video were brutal. People were calling her terrible names. They were saying she was a disgrace to humanity. They were sharing her full name and posting pictures of her from other social media accounts. "Victoria Sterling is everything wrong with rich people," read one comment with over 50,000 likes. "That poor barista. Deserves an apology and a huge tip, wrote another person. I hope this spoiled brat learns her lesson, said a third comment. Victoria's hands were shaking as she read comment after comment criticizing her behavior. She had never been criticized like this before. Throughout her whole life, people had always treated her with respect because of her family's money and power. No one had ever told her she was wrong or mean or cruel. She tried to tell herself that these people did not understand the situation. They did not know how badly she had been treated at the coffee shop. But as she watched the video again, she could not ignore the truth. She looked like a monster and Marcus looked like a saint. Victoria's phone kept ringing. Friends, family members, and even business associates were calling to ask about the video. Some people were concerned about her. Others were angry. A few were laughing at her humiliation. Her father called around midnight. His voice was cold and furious. Victoria, what have you done? My phone has been ringing all evening with people asking about this video. The news wants to interview me about my daughter's behavior. This is a disaster for our family's reputation. Daddy, it wasn't as bad as it looks, Victoria tried to explain. That worker was incompetent and I was just... I don't want to hear excuses, her father interrupted. You embarrassed our entire family. You made us look like cruel, heartless people. Do you understand what this could do to our business? Victoria had never heard her father speak to her so harshly. She began to cry. I'm sorry, Daddy, I didn't know anyone was recording. That's your concern? That you got caught? Her father asked incredulously. Victoria, your behavior in that video is disgusting. I'm ashamed to call you my daughter. After her father hung up, Victoria sat alone in her dark apartment. Her laptop was still open, showing the video that had already been viewed over 3 million times. The comments continued to pour in, each one more critical than the last. She noticed that some people had found other photos and videos of her from various social events. They were analyzing her past behavior and finding more examples of her entitled attitude. Party photos where she looked drunk and rude were being shared. Alongside the coffee shop video, someone had even found her social media posts where she had made insensitive comments about poor people and immigrants. Posts that had seemed funny to her when she wrote them now looked cruel and heartless when combined with the video of her attacking Marcus. Victoria realized that this was not going to blow over quickly. This was not going to disappear in a day or two. The internet had decided that she was a villain, and millions of people now knew her name and her face. She tried to delete her social media accounts, but it was too late. People had already saved screenshots of all her posts. Deleting her accounts only made her look more guilty and cowardly. By morning, the video had been viewed over 10 million times. News programs were calling it Coffee Shop Karen and discussing whether Victoria's behavior represented a larger problem with entitled rich people in America. Victoria had become the most hated person on the internet, and she had no idea how to make it stop. She had gone from being an unknown rich girl to being a national symbol of everything people hated about wealth and privilege. And through it all, Marcus continued to go to work at the coffee shop, serving customers with the same kindness and professionalism he had always shown. He had no idea that the worst day of his life was about to become the beginning of something wonderful. Victoria woke up the next morning hoping that the internet storm had calmed down. She grabbed her phone and immediately saw that she had over 2,000 missed calls and text messages. Her heart sank as she realized the situation had only gotten worse overnight. The video now had over 20 million views. It was being shared on television news programs around the world. Late-night comedy shows were making jokes about her. Memes with her angry face were spreading across social media faster than she could count them. Victoria's doorman called her apartment. Miss Sterling, he said nervously, there are reporters outside the building. They want to talk to you about some video. Victoria looked out her window and saw news vans parked on the street below. Reporters with cameras were standing on the sidewalk, waiting for her to come out. She felt trapped in her own home. Her phone rang again. This time it was her father, and his voice was even angrier than the night before. Victoria, you need to get down to my office right now, he said. We need to discuss the damage you've caused to our family business. I can't leave my apartment, Victoria said. There are reporters everywhere. Then you should have thought about that before you decided to act like a spoiled child in public, her father replied coldly. Figure out a way to get here. We have serious problems to deal with. Victoria managed to sneak out of her building through the service entrance She took a taxi to her father's office building, keeping her head down and hoping no one would recognize her. When she arrived at Sterling Real Estate Development, she could see that something was wrong. The usually busy office was quiet. Employees were whispering to each other and looking at their computer screens. When they saw Victoria walk in, they quickly looked away. Her father's secretary, Mrs. Patterson, had worked for the family for 15 years. She had always been kind to Victoria, but today she could barely look at her. "He's waiting for you in his office," Mrs. Patterson said quietly. "And Victoria, there have been a lot of angry phone calls today." Victoria walked into her father's office and found him sitting behind his desk with a stack of papers in front of him. His face was grim and he looked older than she had ever seen him. "Sit down," he said without looking up. "We need to talk about what your little tantrum has cost our family." Victoria sat in the chair across from his desk, feeling like a child being scolded by the principal. "The Riverside Heights project is dead," her father said, referring to a major construction deal they had been working on for months. "The city council got hundreds of calls yesterday from people who saw your video. They don't want to do business with our family anymore." Victoria felt her stomach twist. The Riverside Heights project was worth $50 million. "Daddy, surely they'll change their minds when this all blows over." "This isn't blowing over, Victoria," her father said sharply. 3 other major clients called this morning to cancel their contracts. They said they don't want to be associated with our family after seeing how you treat working people. He picked up a newspaper from his desk and threw it toward her. Victoria's face was on the front page under a headline that read, "Sterling Heiress's Coffee Shop Meltdown Exposes Dark Side of Wealth." "Read it," her father demanded. Victoria picked up the newspaper with shaking hands. The article described her behavior in detail and included quotes from business ethics experts who said her actions reflected poorly on her entire family's values. The way Victoria Sterling treated that hardworking barista shows a disturbing level of entitlement and cruelty. One expert was quoted as saying, "It makes you wonder how the Sterling family treats their own employees and business partners." "This is unfair," Victoria protested. "One bad day doesn't define who I am, doesn't it?" her father asked. "Because I've been thinking about your behavior over the years, and I'm starting to realize that this video just showed the world who you really are." Victoria felt tears forming in her eyes. Her father had never spoken to her like this before. "The Sterling Family Foundation Board met this morning," he continued. "They've voted to remove you from all positions. The Charity Gala Committee called to uninvite you from next month's event. The Museum Board asked for your resignation." Each announcement felt like a punch to Victoria's stomach. These organizations had been her entire social life. Without them, she would have nothing to do and nowhere to go. "What about my friends?" Victoria asked weakly. Her father pulled out his phone and showed her a text message. It was from Margaret Worthington, Victoria's closest friend and the daughter of another wealthy family. The message read, "Charles, I think it's best if Victoria doesn't attend my daughter's wedding next month. Given the current situation, her presence might be uncomfortable for our other guests. Margaret has been your friend since childhood," her father said. "If she's distancing herself from you, imagine what everyone else is thinking." Victoria realized that her entire world was crumbling around her. Everything she had taken for granted, her social status, her family's respect, her friends' loyalty, was disappearing because of one moment of cruel behavior. "The worst part," her father continued, "is that I've received dozens of calls from our employees, people who work in our buildings, people who clean our offices, people who serve us food at company events. They're all asking if we treat them the way you treated that barista." Victoria had never thought about the people who worked for her family. They were just faces in the background of her privileged life. She had never considered that they might have feelings or that her behavior might affect how they viewed her family. "I had to spend 3 hours this morning talking to our building supervisors," her father said. "I had to promise them that our family doesn't share your attitude toward working people. I had to beg them not to quit their jobs." "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," Victoria said, finally beginning to cry. "But it did happen," her father replied. "And now we all have to live with the consequences of your actions." He stood up from his desk and walked to the window, looking out at the city his family had helped build. "I'm cutting off your credit cards," he said without turning around. "I'm reducing your monthly allowance to $500. You're going to learn what it's like to live on a budget," Victoria gasped. $500 was less than she usually spent on a single dinner at her favorite restaurant. You're also going to get a job, her father continued. A real job where you have to work for your money. Maybe that will teach you to respect people who work for a living. But Daddy, where will I work? Victoria asked. No one will hire me after this video. That's your problem to solve, her father said coldly. You created this mess and you're going to have to figure out how to clean it up. Victoria left her father's office feeling more alone than she had ever felt in her life. As she walked through the building lobby, she could see employees pointing at her and whispering. Some of them looked angry. Others looked sad. None of them looked at her with the respect she was used to receiving. Outside, the reporters were still waiting. They shouted questions at her as she tried to hail a taxi. Miss Sterling, do you have anything to say to the barista you attacked? Victoria! Do you plan to apologize for your behavior? Miss Sterling, how do you respond to people calling you a symbol of everything wrong with wealthy Americans? Victoria managed to get into a taxi without answering any questions. As they drove away, she could see the reporters getting into their own vehicles to follow her. She realized that this was her life now. She was no longer Victoria Sterling, beloved daughter of a respected family. She was Victoria Sterling, the cruel rich girl who attacked an innocent worker. She was famous for all the wrong reasons. And somewhere across the city, Marcus was getting ready for another day of work, completely unaware that his quiet dignity in the face of her cruelty had made him a hero to millions of people around the world. The internet had judged them both, and the verdict was clear. The poor immigrant barista was a better person than the wealthy American heiress. Victoria was beginning to realize that maybe, for the first time in her life, the world was absolutely right about her. Amy Rodriguez was a journalist for the New York Daily Herald. She was not related to Marcus, despite sharing the same last name. Amy specialized in human interest stories, the kind of articles that showed the real people behind the headlines. When she saw the viral video of Victoria Sterling attacking Marcus, she noticed something that other reporters had missed. While everyone else was focused on Victoria's terrible behavior, Amy was interested in Marcus himself. In the video, despite being attacked and humiliated, he had remained calm, professional, and kind. Amy had covered hundreds of stories over her 15-year career, and she recognized something special when she saw it. There's more to this story, Amy told her editor. Mr. Davidson, the morning after the video went viral, everyone is writing about the rich woman and her bad behavior. But what about the barista? Who is he? What's his story? Mr. Davidson was a practical man who cared more about newspaper sales than human interest. People want to read about the villain, not the victim. The Sterling girl is getting us clicks and selling papers. But think about it, Amy persisted. This young man handled an impossible situation with perfect grace. There's something remarkable about someone who can stay that calm under attack. I think our readers would love to know more about him. Amy had a reputation for finding amazing stories that other reporters missed. Over the years, her articles had won several awards and brought the newspaper a lot of respect. Mr. Davidson trusted her instincts. Fine, he said finally. You have 3 days to find out if there's really a story there. But if it's just another hard-working immigrant piece, I'm not running it. Amy smiled and grabbed her notebook. She had a feeling that Marcus Rodriguez was much more than he appeared to be. The first place Amy went was the coffee shop where the incident had happened. It was busier than usual, with curious people coming in to see where the famous video was recorded. Some customers were disappointed that Marcus was not working that day. It was his day off from this job. Amy spoke with Mr. Johnson, the manager who had defended Marcus during Victoria's attack. Marcus is the best employee I've ever had, Mr. Johnson told her. He's always on time, always polite, always willing to help. He works harder than people who've been here for years. How long has he worked here? Amy asked. About 6 months, Mr. Johnson replied. But I can tell you I've never had a single complaint about him until that crazy woman showed up. Amy asked if she could speak with Marcus, and Mr. Johnson gave her his phone number. When Amy called, Marcus was hesitant to talk to a reporter. He was still embarrassed about the incident and did not want more attention. I just want to forget about what happened, Marcus told her over the phone. I don't want to be on the news, but Amy was persuasive. She explained that people were interested in his story, not to make fun of him, but because they admired how he had handled the situation. People see you as a hero, Amy told him. They want to know more about the person who showed such grace under pressure. Finally, Marcus agreed to meet with Amy at a small restaurant near his apartment. When Amy arrived, she found a young man who looked tired but determined. Even though he had become famous overnight, he seemed more concerned about getting to his evening job than about his newfound celebrity. "I work at a grocery store in the evenings," Marcus explained when Amy asked why he seemed in a hurry. "I can't be late. They're counting on me." This surprised Amy. Most people who had just become internet famous would want to talk about their experience for hours, but Marcus was more worried about letting down his second employer. "You work 2 jobs?" Amy asked. "3, actually," Marcus said quietly. "I work at the coffee shop in the mornings, the grocery store in the evenings, and I do cleaning at an office building on weekends." Amy was amazed. "That's over 60 hours a week. When do you sleep?" Marcus shrugged. "I sleep when I can. I have responsibilities." As they talked, Amy learned more about Marcus's life. He lived in a small apartment with his mother, Maria, who had been sick for the past 2 years. His father had died in an accident back in their home country, and Marcus had brought his mother to America hoping to get her better medical care. "The doctors here are helping her," Marcus explained, "but the treatments are expensive. Insurance doesn't cover everything. That's why I work so much." Amy was starting to understand that Marcus was not just a college student working part-time for spending money. He was the sole provider for his sick mother, working 3 jobs to pay for her medical care. "What did you do before you came to America?" Amy asked. Marcus's eyes lit up for the first time during their conversation. "I was studying engineering at the National University back home. I was in my 3rd year, specializing in environmental engineering. I wanted to design systems to clean water in poor communities." "Why did you leave school?" Marcus's expression became sad again. "When my father died, everything changed. My mother became very depressed and sick. The doctors back home couldn't help her. I had to choose between finishing my degree and saving my mother's life." Amy felt a chill run down her spine. This was not the story she had expected to find. Marcus was not just a hard-working immigrant. He was a brilliant student who had given up his education to save his mother. "Do you miss your studies?" Amy asked. "Every day," Marcus admitted, "but I made the right choice. My mother's getting better here. That's worth more than any degree." Amy spent the next 2 days investigating Marcus's background more thoroughly. She contacted his former professors at the National University, who all remembered him as one of their brightest students. Marcus was exceptional, Professor Elena Santos told Amy over an international phone call. He had ideas that were years ahead of his classmates. "We were devastated when he left school. He could have changed the world with his innovations." Amy also spoke with Marcus's co-workers at his other jobs. Everyone had the same opinion. Marcus was reliable, kind, and hardworking. But what impressed Amy most was what she learned from the people Marcus helped outside of work. "He volunteers at the homeless shelter every Sunday morning," explained Father Miguel, the priest at Marcus's local church. "He serves breakfast and talks with the homeless men and women. Many of them don't speak English well, and Marcus translates for them when they need help with paperwork or medical forms." Amy discovered that Marcus had helped 3 different families in his neighborhood fill out immigration paperwork. He had tutored neighborhood children in math and science for free. He had even given money from his own small paycheck to help a neighbor pay for her son's school supplies. "Marcus never talks about the things he does for others," said Mrs. Chen, his elderly neighbor. "But everyone in this building knows he's special. When my husband was in the hospital, Marcus walked my dog every day for 3 weeks. He wouldn't take any money for it." The more Amy learned about Marcus, the more amazed she became. Here was a young man who worked 3 jobs, cared for his sick mother, volunteered at a homeless shelter, helped his neighbors, and still found time to be kind to every person he met. And he had done all of this while dealing with the stress of being an immigrant in a new country. But the biggest surprise was still to come. Amy was interviewing Marcus's supervisor at the grocery store when she learned something that would change everything. "Marcus is incredibly smart," the supervisor, Mr. Thompson, told her. "Sometimes when we have problems with our computer systems or our refrigeration units, Marcus figures out solutions that our professional repair people can't find." "What kind of solutions?" Amy asked. "Well, last month our freezer system was broken and the repair company said we needed to buy a whole new unit for $20,000. Marcus looked at it for about 10 minutes and made some adjustments that fixed the whole thing. Saved us a fortune." Amy was intrigued. "Does he do this kind of thing often?" "All the time. He's designed a more efficient system for organizing our inventory. He figured out how to reduce our electricity costs by 30%. The kid's a genius, but he acts like it's no big deal. That evening, Amy called Marcus and asked him about his problem-solving skills at work. "Oh, that," Marcus said modestly. "I just like figuring out how things work. It's fun for me." "Marcus," Amy said carefully, "have you ever invented anything? Created anything new?" There was a long pause. Then Marcus said quietly, "I have some ideas I've been working on, but they're just sketches and notes. Nothing important." Amy's reporter instincts were screaming that there was something more to discover. "Would you be willing to show me these ideas?" The next morning, Marcus invited Amy to his small apartment. His mother, Maria, was a kind woman who insisted on serving Amy tea and homemade cookies despite her obvious illness. Marcus led Amy to a corner of the living room where he had set up a small desk. The desk was covered with notebooks, sketches, and technical drawings. Amy looked at the papers and realized she was seeing something extraordinary. The sketches showed detailed designs for water purification systems, solar energy collectors, and waste treatment facilities. The technical drawings were professional quality, with precise measurements and engineering calculations. The notebooks contained page after page of mathematical formulas and scientific research. "Marcus," Amy said slowly, "these look like professional engineering designs." Amy Rodriguez spent the rest of that day studying Marcus's designs and notebooks. As a journalist, she had covered many technology and science stories over the years. She had interviewed engineers, inventors, and scientists. She knew enough to recognize that what she was looking at was extraordinary. The water purification system that Marcus had designed was unlike anything she had seen before. It used a combination of solar energy and innovative filtering techniques to clean contaminated water, quickly and cheaply. The waste treatment facility plans showed a system that could turn garbage into useful energy while protecting the environment. "Marcus," Amy said carefully, "I think you need to show these designs to some professional engineers. These ideas could be worth a lot of money." Marcus looked confused. "Really? I just drew them because I was thinking about problems back home. My village didn't have clean water, and I always wondered how to fix that." Amy realized that Marcus had no idea how brilliant he truly was. His natural modesty and focus on helping others had prevented him from understanding the value of his own work. "Would it be okay if I had some experts look at your designs?" Amy asked. "I know some professors at the university who could tell us if these ideas are as good as I think they are." Marcus hesitated. "I don't want people to think I'm trying to show off. I'm not even a real engineer." "Marcus, you may not have finished your degree, but you are definitely a real engineer," Amy said firmly. "These designs prove it." Amy left Marcus's apartment with photocopies of his most promising designs. Her first call was to Dr. Sarah Kim, a professor of environmental engineering at Columbia University, who had helped Amy with technical stories in the past. "Sarah, I need you to look at some engineering designs," Amy said over the phone, "but I can't tell you who created them. I just want your honest opinion about whether they would work." Dr. Kim agreed to meet Amy the next morning. When Amy showed her Marcus's water purification designs, Dr. Kim's reaction was immediate. "Where did you get these?" Dr. Kim asked, her eyes wide with excitement. "These are incredibly innovative. This filtration system could revolutionize disaster relief efforts." "So they would actually work?" Amy asked. "Work? These designs are brilliant. The combination of solar collection and multi-stage filtering is genius. And look at these calculations. Whoever designed this really understands the science." Dr. Kim spent over an hour examining Marcus's notebooks. She was particularly impressed by his waste treatment facility design. "This system could solve waste management problems for small cities," Dr. Kim explained. "It's efficient, environmentally friendly, and relatively inexpensive to build. I know companies that would pay millions for ideas like this." Amy felt her heart racing. She had suspected that Marcus was special, but this confirmed it. "Sarah, what if I told you that these designs were created by someone with only 3 years of university education, working 3 minimum wage jobs in his spare time in his living room?" Dr. Kim looked up from the papers with amazement. "I would say that person is a genius. These designs are better than work I've seen from graduate students with advanced degrees." Amy's next call was to Professor James Martinez at MIT, who specialized in sustainable technology. His reaction was even stronger than Dr. Kim's. Amy, who is the engineer who created these? Professor Martinez asked after examining the designs for 30 minutes. I want to offer them a position in our graduate program immediately. What if I told you they're currently working as a barista in a coffee shop? Amy replied. Professor Martinez was quiet for a long moment. Then I would say the world is wasting an incredible talent. These ideas could help millions of people in developing countries. This person needs to be in a laboratory, not serving coffee. Amy had one more person to call, her friend Lisa Chen, who worked as a patent attorney for a major technology firm. Lisa, I need you to do a patent search for me, Amy said. I want to know if certain engineering designs already exist. Lisa agreed to help, and Amy sent her copies of Marcus's most promising inventions. 2 days later, Lisa called back with exciting news. Amy, these designs are completely original. Not only do they not violate any existing patents, but they could be patented themselves. And based on what I'm seeing, they could be extremely valuable. How valuable? Amy asked. The water purification system alone could be worth tens of millions of dollars if it's developed properly. The waste treatment design could be worth even more. Whoever created these could become very wealthy. Amy realized that she needed to do more research into Marcus's background before she wrote her story. She decided to investigate his family history to understand where his brilliant mind had come from. This investigation led Amy to make a phone call that would change everything. Amy contacted the National University in Marcus's home country and asked to speak with someone who had known the Rodriguez family. After being transferred several times, she was connected with Dr. Carlos Mendoza, who had been the head of the engineering department when Marcus was a student. Ah, Marcus Rodriguez, Dr. Mendoza said when Amy mentioned the name, one of our most promising students. We were heartbroken when he had to leave school after his father's death. Can you tell me about his father? Amy asked. Dr. Emmanuel Rodriguez was a remarkable man, Dr. Mendoza said. He was not only a brilliant surgeon, but also an inventor and humanitarian. He held several medical patents and used his wealth to provide free health care to poor communities. Amy felt a chill run down her spine. Dr. Emmanuel Rodriguez? Are you sure that was Marcus's father? Of course I'm sure. Dr. Rodriguez was famous throughout our country. He saved thousands of lives with his medical innovations. His death in that car accident was a national tragedy. Amy quickly ended the call and immediately began researching Dr. Emmanuel Rodriguez online. What she found made her realize that Marcus's story was even more incredible than she had imagined. Dr. Emmanuel Rodriguez had been one of the most respected doctors in his country. He had invented several medical devices that were used in hospitals around the world. He had written groundbreaking research papers on surgical techniques. He had founded 3 different charitable organizations that provided health care to poor communities. More importantly, Dr. Emmanuel Rodriguez had been wealthy. Very wealthy. His medical patents and surgical practice had made him one of the richest doctors in his country. The Rodriguez family had lived in a mansion and owned several businesses. This meant that Marcus had not always been poor. He had grown up in privilege, attended the best schools, and been surrounded by wealth and education. But when his father died, everything had changed. Amy found old newspaper articles about Dr. Rodriguez's death. He had been driving to a remote village to perform emergency surgery when his car had crashed during a storm. The articles mentioned that he had left behind a wife and son, but they were now facing financial difficulties. Because most of Dr. Rodriguez's wealth had been tied up in charitable projects, Amy called Dr. Mendoza. Again, to get more details, what happened to the Rodriguez family after the doctor died? She asked. It was very sad, Dr. Mendoza replied. Dr. Rodriguez had donated most of his money to charity over the years. When he died, there wasn't much left for his family. His wife became very depressed and sick. Young Marcus tried to continue his studies while working to support her, but it became impossible. So Marcus gave up his education to take care of his mother. Yes, he was supposed to graduate with honors the following year. He probably would have gone on to graduate school and become a professor or a research scientist. Instead, he disappeared to take care of his family. We heard he had taken his mother to America for medical treatment. Amy now understood the full scope of Marcus's sacrifice. He was not just a poor immigrant working minimum wage jobs. He was the son of a famous doctor who had given up wealth, education, and a promising career to save his mother's life. But that was not the most shocking discovery Amy would make. In her research on Dr. Emmanuel Rodriguez, Amy found an old interview where he had discussed his son's future. "My son Marcus has inherited my love of helping people, but he's much smarter than I am," Dr. Rodriguez had told the interviewer 5 years before his death. "I solve medical problems one patient at a time, but Marcus thinks about bigger problems. He wants to bring clean water and sustainable energy to entire communities. I believe he will change the world someday." Amy realized that she had uncovered one of the most remarkable stories of her career. The humble barista who had been attacked by Victoria Sterling was actually the son of a famous doctor, a brilliant inventor in his own right, and a young man who had sacrificed everything to save his mother. But as Amy prepared to write her article, she discovered one more piece of information that would shock the entire world. While researching Dr. Emmanuel Rodriguez's medical patents, Amy found something that made her heart race. 3 of the patents were co-authored with someone else, M.E. Rodriguez. The M stood for Marcus, and the E stood for Emmanuel. Marcus had been working with his father on medical inventions since he was a teenager. At the age of 19, Marcus Rodriguez already held 3 international patents for medical devices that were being used in hospitals around the world. Amy Rodriguez spent 3 more days verifying every detail of her incredible discovery. She contacted the patent office to confirm that Marcus held 3 international patents. She spoke with doctors who had used Dr. Emmanuel Rodriguez's medical devices. She even found a lawyer who had been handling the Rodriguez family's financial affairs. The lawyer, Mr. William Foster, was shocked when Amy called him. "I've been trying to reach Marcus Rodriguez for over a year," Mr. Foster explained. "His father's estate has been generating significant income from patent royalties. The young man is owed over $2 million in accumulated payments." $2 million? Amy asked in amazement. "Why hasn't he collected it?" "He never responded to our letters. We sent them to his last known address in his home country, but the letters were returned. We had no way to find him." Amy realized that Marcus had been so focused on survival and caring for his mother that he had never bothered to update his contact information with his father's lawyers. He had been working 3 minimum wage jobs while millions of dollars sat waiting for him in bank accounts he did not know existed. Amy also discovered that Marcus's current inventions, the water purification and waste treatment systems she had seen in his notebook, were revolutionary enough to attract major corporate interest. She showed his designs to executives at 3 different technology companies, and all of them expressed immediate interest in licensing his ideas. "If these systems work as designed, we're talking about a market worth hundreds of millions of dollars," explained Janet Morrison, the CEO of Clean Tech Industries. "Whoever invented these could become one of the wealthiest environmental engineers in the world." Amy realized that her story would not just reveal Marcus's hidden past, it would also launch his future. But first, she needed to tell Marcus what she had discovered. Amy called Marcus and asked to meet with him again. When she arrived at his apartment, she found him helping his mother with her physical therapy exercises. Maria Rodriguez looked much healthier than she had during Amy's first visit. "The treatments are working," Marcus explained with a smile. "The doctors say she might be able to go back to work part-time soon." Amy smiled at the good news, but she felt nervous about what she was about to reveal. "Marcus, I need to talk to you about what I discovered during my research." She sat down at his small kitchen table and pulled out a folder full of documents. "Marcus, do you remember working with your father on some medical inventions when you were in college?" Amy asked gently. Marcus nodded. "Yes, I helped him with some designs. It was fun to work together." "Why do you ask?" Amy showed him copies of the patent documents. "Marcus, you're listed as a co-inventor on 3 international patents. These patents have been generating royalty payments for years." Marcus looked confused as he examined the documents. "I don't understand. What are royalty payments?" Amy explained that every time a hospital used one of the medical devices he had helped invent, the Rodriguez family received money. She told him about the lawyer who had been trying to find him and the bank accounts full of money that belonged to him. Marcus stared at the documents in shock. "Are you saying that I have money somewhere?" "Marcus, you have over $2 million waiting for you," Amy said softly. "You're wealthy. You don't need to work 3 jobs anymore." Marcus began to cry, not from happiness but from relief. For 5 years, He had carried the enormous stress of supporting his mother while working exhausting jobs. He had sacrificed his education, his health, and his dreams to keep them both alive. Now suddenly that burden was lifted. "I can afford my mother's treatments," he whispered. "I can afford to finish my education." Amy showed him the reactions from the engineering professors and technology companies who had examined his current inventions. She explained that his water purification and waste treatment designs could make him even wealthier, if he chose to develop them. "But more importantly," Amy said, "your ideas could help millions of people around the world. You could bring clean water to communities that need it. You could solve environmental problems that affect entire countries." Marcus looked at his notebooks full of designs with new understanding. "I just wanted to help people like the ones in my village back home." "And now you can," Amy said. "You have the knowledge, the resources, and the opportunity to make a real difference in the world." Amy published her article 3 days later. The headline read, "The Coffee Shop Genius: How a Poor Barista Turned Out to Be a Millionaire Inventor." The story began with the viral video of Victoria Sterling's attack on Marcus, but it quickly revealed the shocking truth about his identity. Amy described Marcus's brilliant father, his sacrifice to care for his sick mother, his hidden wealth, and his revolutionary inventions. The article included quotes from engineering professors who called Marcus's work genius level, and from business executives who wanted to invest in his ideas. Amy also included touching details about Marcus's volunteer work and his kindness to neighbors and co-workers. The response to Amy's article was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours of publication, it was being shared on social media even more rapidly than the original video of Victoria's attack. But now, instead of anger at Victoria's cruelty, people were expressing amazement at Marcus's story and admiration for his character. "This man gave up everything to save his mother's life," wrote one commenter. "And he never complained or asked for sympathy. He's a real hero." "Imagine working 3 jobs when you're actually a millionaire just because you don't know the money exists," wrote another. "This shows how humble and focused on others he is." "Victoria Sterling attacked a genius inventor and didn't even know it," added a third comment. "This makes her behavior even more disgusting." Television news programs picked up Amy's story and began interviewing the engineering professors who had examined Marcus's work. The morning talk shows invited patent lawyers and technology experts to explain how someone could be wealthy without knowing it. The contrast between Marcus and Victoria became even more stark in light of the new information. Here was Victoria, who had been born into wealth and privilege, attacking a young man who had earned his success through brilliance and hard work. Victoria had never contributed anything meaningful to the world, while Marcus had already created inventions that saved lives and had designs that could help millions more. But the most powerful part of Amy's story was its revelation of Marcus's character. Despite facing incredible hardships, despite being attacked and humiliated in public, despite working exhausting jobs to survive, Marcus had remained kind, humble, and focused on helping others. The story spread around the world. International news organizations picked it up and translated it into dozens of languages. Engineering schools began using Marcus's story as an example of how brilliance and determination could overcome any obstacle. Technology companies started calling Marcus directly, offering him jobs, partnerships, and investment opportunities. Universities invited him to complete his degree with full scholarships and research positions. Publishers wanted to buy the rights to his life story. But the most meaningful response came from people in poor communities around the world who had heard about his water purification and waste treatment designs. They sent letters and emails begging him to help their villages and cities solve their environmental problems. Marcus was overwhelmed by the sudden attention. In 3 days, he had gone from being an unknown barista to being one of the most famous engineers in the world. But true to his character, his first concern was not for his own fame or fortune. "I want to help people," Marcus told Amy in a follow-up interview. "I want to use these opportunities to make the world better." Meanwhile, Victoria Sterling had been following the news coverage from her apartment, where she remained hidden from the reporters who were still trying to interview her. Each new detail about Marcus's true identity made her feel worse about her behavior. She had not just attacked a random service worker. She had attacked a brilliant scientist who was working multiple jobs to care for his sick mother. She had humiliated a man who spent his free time volunteering at homeless shelters and helping his neighbors. She had called him worthless, when he was actually worth millions of dollars. She had said he would never amount to anything, when he had already invented medical devices that saved lives around the world. She had told him he didn't belong in America, when he was exactly the kind of person America needed more of. Victoria realized that her cruel words had not just been wrong, they had been the complete opposite of the truth. Marcus was everything she pretended to be, successful, valuable, and important. But unlike her, he had earned his success through hard work and used it to help others. As she read Amy's article for the third time, Victoria Sterling finally began to understand the true magnitude of her cruelty and the real character of the man she had tried to destroy. The world now knew the truth about both of them, and the truth was more devastating to Victoria's reputation than any attack she had made on Marcus. Victoria Sterling sat in her dark apartment staring at her laptop screen. She had read Amy Rodriguez's article about Marcus 5 times, and each reading made her feel worse. The truth about the man she had attacked was like a mirror that showed her exactly who she really was, and she did not like what she saw. For 28 years, Victoria had believed that money and family name made her better than other people. She had thought that being born wealthy meant she was more important, more valuable, more deserving of respect than people who worked regular jobs, but Marcus Rodriguez had shattered that belief completely. Here was a man who had accomplished more by the age of 26 than Victoria had accomplished in her entire life. While Victoria had spent her days shopping, gossiping, and attending parties, Marcus had been inventing medical devices that saved lives. While Victoria had been complaining about poor service and rude workers, Marcus had been volunteering at homeless shelters and helping his neighbors. Most devastating of all, Marcus actually had more money than Victoria did. The article revealed that his patent royalties and the potential value of his new inventions made him worth far more than her trust fund. But while Victoria flaunted her wealth and used it to feel superior to others, Marcus had been working minimum wage jobs because he did not even know his fortune existed. Victoria realized that everything she had said to Marcus in the coffee shop had been not just cruel, but completely backwards. She had called him worthless when he was worth millions. She had said he would never amount to anything when he had already changed the world. She had told him he did not belong in America, when he was exactly the kind of person America needed. The weight of this realization hit Victoria like a physical blow. She doubled over in her chair and began to sob, deep, painful sobs that came from the very center of her being. For the first time in her adult life, Victoria was truly ashamed of herself. She had always thought that her family's money made her special. But Marcus had shown her that real worth came from what a person contributed to the world, not from what they inherited from their parents. He had achieved more with his mind and his heart than she had achieved with all her advantages. Victoria's phone rang. It was her mother, calling from Europe where she was vacationing with friends. "Victoria, darling, I just read the most extraordinary article about that young man from the coffee shop," her mother said. "Did you know he's actually quite wealthy? And apparently he's some sort of genius inventor?" Victoria could not answer. She was crying too hard to speak. "Victoria, are you there? What's wrong?" Finally, Victoria managed to choke out the words, "Mom, I destroyed a good person. I attacked someone who was better than me in every way." There was silence on the other end of the phone. Then her mother spoke more quietly. "Victoria, I think it's time you came home to face what you've done." But Victoria could not face anyone yet. She spent the next 3 days in her apartment, not eating, barely sleeping, just thinking about her behavior and about Marcus's character. She read every article about Marcus that had been published. She watched video interviews where engineering professors called him brilliant and revolutionary. She saw footage of him visiting the homeless shelter where he volunteered, speaking kindly to people who had nowhere else to go. In one interview, a reporter asked Marcus what he thought about Victoria Sterling, now that the truth about both of them was known. Marcus paused for a long moment before answering. "I don't think about her very much," he said quietly. "I hope she's learned something from this experience. Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is whether we grow from them." Even after everything Victoria had done to him, Marcus was still being kind and forgiving. This made Victoria feel even worse about herself, but it also showed her what true character looked like. On the 4th day after Amy's article was published, Victoria made a decision that would have seemed impossible a week earlier. She was going to apologize publicly to Marcus and try to make up for the harm she had caused. Victoria called a press conference for the next morning. She did not tell anyone what she planned to say, not her father, not her friends, not her family's publicist. She knew they would try to stop her or control her message, and she needed to speak from her heart. When Victoria arrived at the hotel conference room she had rented, she was shocked to see how many reporters and cameras were waiting for her. This was her first public appearance since the video went viral, and everyone wanted to hear what she had to say. Victoria had written notes for her speech, but when she stood at the podium and saw all the faces staring at her, she put the notes aside. She needed to speak honestly without a script. "My name is Victoria Sterling," she began, her voice shaking. "A week ago, I attacked a young man named Marcus Rodriguez in a coffee shop. I was cruel to him for no reason except that I thought I was better than him, because I have money and he was working a service job." Victoria paused and took a deep breath. She could see reporters typing frantically and cameras zooming in on her face. "I have learned that Marcus Rodriguez is one of the most remarkable people I will ever encounter. He is brilliant, kind, hardworking, and generous. He has accomplished more in his 26 years than I have accomplished in 28. He has helped more people, created more value, and shown more character than I ever have." Victoria's voice broke as she continued. "I called him worthless, but I am the one who is worthless. I said he would never amount to anything, but I am the one who has never contributed anything meaningful to the world. I told him he didn't belong in America, but the truth is that America needs more people like Marcus Rodriguez and fewer people like me." The room was completely silent. No one had expected Victoria to be so harsh in judging herself. "I want to apologize to Marcus Rodriguez for my cruel behavior, but I know that words are not enough. I need to show that I have learned from this experience." Victoria pulled out a folder and held up some papers. "I am announcing today that I am donating $2 million to pay for Mrs. Maria Rodriguez's medical treatments and to support Marcus's education as he completes his engineering degree." There were murmurs of surprise from the reporters. $2 million was most of Victoria's trust fund. "I am also donating $1 million to the homeless shelter where Marcus volunteers, and another $1 million to create a scholarship fund for immigrant students studying engineering." Victoria was giving away almost all of her money, keeping only enough to live modestly while she figured out how to rebuild her life. "But more than that," Victoria continued, "I am committing to changing who I am as a person. I'm going to get a job, a real job where I work for my money. I am going to volunteer with organizations that help people instead of just attending parties. I am going to learn what it means to contribute to society instead of just taking from it." Victoria looked directly into the camera that was broadcasting her statement live on television. "Marcus Rodriguez, if you are watching this, I want you to know that you are a better person than I will probably ever be, but I am going to spend the rest of my life trying to become worthy of your forgiveness." When Victoria finished her statement, she walked away from the podium without taking any questions from reporters. She had said everything she needed to say. The response to Victoria's apology was immediate and mixed. Some people praised her for taking responsibility and making meaningful changes. Others said it was too little, too late. Many people were skeptical about whether her transformation was real or just another attempt to manage her public image. But Marcus Rodriguez's response was what mattered most. That afternoon, Marcus held his own brief press conference outside the coffee shop where the original incident had occurred. He was surrounded by reporters, but he looked calm and composed as always. "I watched Victoria Sterling's statement this morning," Marcus said. "I want to thank her for her apology and for her generous donations. But more than that, I want to thank her for showing that people can change." Marcus paused and looked directly into the camera. "What happened to me in this coffee shop was painful, but it has led to wonderful things. I have been reunited with money that will help my mother and allow me to complete my education. I have been offered opportunities to develop my inventions and help communities around the world. Most importantly, this experience has shown me that there are millions of good people who believe in treating others with kindness and respect." A reporter asked Marcus if he forgave Victoria for her cruel treatment. "Yes, I forgive her," Marcus said without hesitation. "Forgiveness is not about forgetting what happened or saying that her behavior was acceptable. Forgiveness is about choosing not to carry anger in my heart. I have too much work to do and too many people to help to waste time on anger. Marcus announced that he was accepting a research position at MIT, where he would complete his engineering degree while developing his water purification and waste treatment systems. Several major technology companies had agreed to fund his research in exchange for licensing rights to his inventions. My goal is to bring clean water and sustainable waste management to communities that need them most, Marcus explained. I want to honor my father's memory by using my abilities to help people, just like he did.